joined by Austin Price of VolQuest's and On 3 this morning. Austin, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. Does anybody do that intro better than Will does, though? I mean, it's not quite Jim Ross, but it's pretty close.
I could never be Jim Ross. I'm just trying to build the hype, Austin. You got the best nuggets, the best insider info possible. I've got to set the stage for you.
Listen, we're going to go through this, and then at the end of the segment, you guys are going to get to ask my kids who are in the car one question about their daddy.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, then.
I like it. All right. Well, stick around for that listening audience around Music City. That's going to be the real highlight. Beyond Savion Hiter, Austin, who was on campus over the weekend, top running back in the country. How did Tennessee do with the top running back who seems to be trying to decide between Tennessee and Michigan at this point of his recruiting process?
Outside of getting a commitment to this point, I think Tennessee's done as well as you can do. I feel like they've been really, really deliberate, consistent, persistent. The relationship with Darrell Sims for Savion is really top-notch. Now, Savion does not do interviews and plays things really close to the vest. I did have a chance to kind of chat it up with him a little bit off to the side, and I think the visit really went about as well as you can imagine it went. And I thought Tennessee did a really nice job. The question for me with Savion Hiter is when does he do something? Because there's a notion out there that he's going to take this all the way to September and watch some games and see how the teams are doing and that type of thing. If that is the case, then this thing is going to be like David Sanders on steroids for 2 months. Because everybody else is going to start coming off the board, and he's going to be like the last man standing over here, not committed. So interesting to see how it all plays out. It definitely is Tennessee and Michigan. I think everybody else is trailing by a lot, and we'll see where he comes up with. The biggest thing is I think the NIL part of this is going to be fairly comparable one to the other. So then it comes back down to kind of relationships and old school recruiting, and we'll see how Darrell Sims fares against Tony Alford.
Austin Price with us this morning. Austin, you bring up something that just really piqued my interest right there, and the idea that you have position like running back that's been devalued in the NFL in a sense, be still so popular in college. Why is there a difference in having a guy that play running back be a 5-star and you wait on him to see his commitment versus the way they're valued in NFL, I guess is what I'm asking. Why is that position still so important?
It is because the game is different in college. It obviously has moved a little bit more towards the NFL model, but when you really watch the two products, they're still a pretty big canyon apart. And I think the running back position is still more valuable in college. And in college, the running backs all have tread on the tires. I think a lot of times with the NFL spot, you wonder how much tread is on the tires. And so the money is not quite what it used to be for a top-end running back compared to the other positions. And so I think that's the biggest reason why the game's still a little bit different, and then kids don't have as much wear and tear.
Makes sense.
VolQuest's Austin Price with us. So, Austin, looking at that recruitment with Savion Hiter, and we've talked with you, we've talked with Brent on Fridays about Tennessee closing, especially with these high 4-star and 5-star level athletes. Have you seen the strategy change for Josh Heupel and his staff at all? Are they adjusting their ways that they're trying to close some of these recruitments, or is it just a matter of case-by-case basis, building the relationships, and their secret sauce kind of is what it is at this point?
I think it's case-by-case. I do think they are never going to be a program that tries to squeeze a kid, push a kid to do something. I just don't think that's Josh Heupel's nature. And a lot of programs do that. So I know some fans get some angst with, there was no commitments out of last weekend, or there were no commitments out of, the last couple of weekends, much like a year ago. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And I think you'll start to see that later this week. I think Tennessee's going to have a run of commits over the next 2 weeks, and it won't be sky is falling. I thought Tennessee had a really good weekend with several key players like Braden Rouse and Joel Combe, both kids from Kell High School down in Georgia. I thought Tennessee did a really nice job with a couple of other, in-state players this past weekend. But at the end of the day, they're never going to be ones that push, And Brett Kolajay kind of talked about that with Matt Ray, his mom did. It's like how they appreciated how Tennessee, it was just a normal weekend, and they were hanging out and spending time. And does that, end up with Brett Kolajay in this class? I don't know. But I think, every kid is looking for a lack of pressure when they go on these visits. But a lot of schools have success when they do put the pressure on because kids don't want to lose their spot. And they may like two schools, and when one all of a sudden might come off the board, or you're told is going to come off the board, they feel the pressure. Well, I need to get in and not wait. And I may not see that other school I like, but I'm going to secure my spot at this school. And that happens a lot.
Austin, Carson Snead, local prospect at tight end, an early Tennessee commit, grew up a Vols fan, now down to Tennessee and Florida as he talked with you guys, continuing to look around a little bit. How much of a threat are the Gators for the childhood Tennessee fan here from Middle Tennessee?
I think they're obviously a threat enough that he took the visit. Do I think that the kid that gave Brent Hubbs quotes a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, about surviving the Butch Jones, I've said that. I will maintain that. If the kid ends up in Gainesville, I'll say that's a shocking turn of events and part of this era of recruiting, where a kid grows up a fan of a school, but at the end of the day, goes to Florida for whatever reason. And so I just think ultimately Tennessee ends up with Carson Snead. I think that's deep down, that's where he wants to be. I think he's enjoyed the process. He's enjoyed the chase from other schools. But it just feels like to me Tennessee left last weekend with a lot of momentum. And so we'll see where it all goes. He's hoping to make something kind of final, quote, final decision in the next couple of weeks. Either way, Florida or whoever's not going to stop until he signs in December. So I think for me, Carson Snead has started to trend back in the direction of Tennessee after taking these visits, and we'll see if the Vols can keep the momentum until he makes the, quote, final decision in the next couple of weeks.
Keeping it in state, man, I had the pleasure of being around this weekend just a little bit, man, and I ran into Kamari Blair out of Kirkwood and Clarksville, man. It seems to be another lineman that the Vols have on their list. How are you evaluating him?
Does he remind you of a young Ron Foster?
What's that?
Does he remind you of a young you?
He did. I'll be honest with you. He did. I probably talked just a little bit more than he did, but legitimately, I probably had maybe 10 pounds on where he was at the time, but you can tell he really flipped the switch as it pertains to his body, his mindset. I talked to his coach a little bit, too. Seems to be a dog and knows how to flip that switch on and off, Austin. But, yeah, I did get that out of him. Just wide-eyed, too, man, for sure.
Came into the weekend, I think Tennessee was trailing. I think deep down he's always kind of wanted Tennessee, but Tennessee was late to offer. They offered about a month ago. They put the full court press on. He had a great time at 865 Live. Left there feeling like Tennessee's got the momentum. Then started to take visits. He visited Wisconsin. He visited South Carolina. He visited Ole Miss. And it felt like Tennessee was back trailing a little bit. I thought when he left campus Saturday night, because he was going on a family vacation on Sunday, that Tennessee had the momentum back. But, again, goes away for vacation, talks about it, prays about it, meditates about it, does all the things that the kids do. Where are they at that point? You can leave in a great spot one weekend and then be out of the running the next. That's just kind of modern-day recruiting. So Tennessee's got to do a good job of trying to stay on top of him. But in talking to him, he sounded like he was going to turn the phone off. Yeah. He's going to be gone for about 10 or 11 days. And so he's going to turn the phone off and, try to work towards a decision. But it certainly felt like when he left campus, Tennessee had the momentum back for Kamari Blair, who is a big 6'5",
yeah.
And that's not a paper 6'5". He's a legit 6'5", big 300-pound offensive tackle with very long arms.
Yo, no doubt about it. I'll tell you somebody else, Austin, I've seen bouncing around as far as like his ratings. I've seen him be a 3-star. I've seen him be a 5-star. But he is a big human being out of the Baylor School in Chapman, and that's Gabriel Osenda. How do you view him in this cycle? Is it potential for 5-star, or why is there discrepancies between his ratings, if that matters?
Well, kid comes from Canada, and I think for Gabe, started out as just kind of a mountain of a young man, a big-bodied kid, but he's kind of filled into his body a lot. And you're right. I mean, he's 6'7". I mean, he's a big guy and 340 pounds.
Right.
So he doesn't look 340, right? Like he looks a little bit thinner than that.
Yo.
And I think has started to get more and more traction. I think you'll see him continue to rise in the rankings on all platforms, and ultimately be probably a composite 5-star, in the On3 rankings.
Austin Price of VolQuest's and On3, our guest this morning on Ramon and Will. Austin, I know the national guys at Steve Wiltfong and On3.com wrote about Joel Wyatt being considered a two-way player at Vanderbilt, Tennessee, maybe seeing him more just on that defensive side, perhaps at edge rusher. How firm is that vision that Tennessee has for him, and how much of a player is Vanderbilt here on a decision that is being almost tossed up like a 50-50 ahead of a scheduled July 6th announcement at this point for the local product?
I think it all boils down to what does Joel Wyatt want to be, right? Like, does he want to be a wide receiver safety? Does he want to be a Leo? Probably doesn't want to be the Leo, but most schools, including people I've talked to around the mid-state, think that no matter how a team is recruiting him, they view him long-term as a Leo. Sometimes you're just playing the game and recruiting. I don't think you can really do that in this era, because if kids don't want to play a position, you've got to be honest with them, because ultimately they can just walk out on you 5 minutes later. This isn't the old days where you had to sit out a year and you could tell a kid, hey, yeah, you're going to play running back. And then you move him to linebacker and he goes into pout mode. I don't think you can really do that anymore, because kids can just leave. And so I think you have to be honest with them. I've continued to hear the last 96 hours or so, maybe 120 hours. I like throwing out more hours, that Tennessee's got some momentum there. And that's kind of where I maintain it's at. I don't think Vanderbilt's totally out, but at the same time, it certainly feels like there's been some really good dialogue with Tennessee over the last 3-4 days, and it just feels like right now, heading into the July 6th decision, that Tennessee is in a fairly good spot for Joel Wyatt. We'll see if they can keep the momentum until July 6th.
Also, we're about to get into this topic from ESPN.com and some draft analysts that have Jermod McCoy as the number one corner in this 2026 draft class in all of college football heading into the 2025 season. McCoy obviously coming off the offseason knee injury. Any updates on his return from that knee problem and his recovery process getting ready for the season?
We've been doing straight line running. He's not started change of direction yet, although I think that is coming in the month of July. And then it will boil down to when does he get cleared? How does the staff feel about putting him out there and kind of testing the knee a good amount? For Jermod McCoy, the best thing going for him is Colton Hood, because Tennessee was able to get a player that's established, a really nice addition during the spring portal at a position of need that they probably did not see coming at that point in time. And I think that that's given them a little bit of a longer runway with Jermod McCoy. You don't have to rush him back. There is some buffer time, and I think that is much needed. At the same time, Jermod McCoy is a competitor, Will, and so he wants to get back on the field as quickly as possible. So to me, you have to be very cognizant not to let him rush himself along too much, but at the same time, once he's cleared by the medical staff and good to go, give him some reps. Let him wade into the water in the shallow end and see where things go. I think right now he is a little bit ahead of pace on the recovery, and we'll see how things continue to progress. Again, change of direction coming in the month of July.
All right, Austin, to wrap up this morning, we have got other members of the Price family who you tell us are reportedly in the car this morning. First of all, Austin, can you tell us who we are speaking to before we ask our last question here? Who do we got on the line with us?
You have Addison and you have Avery. Addison's my 12-year-old. Avery's my 10-year-old. Avery apparently is like her mother because she's got her side of the car set on 90. It's the summertime. And so I've routinely had during this interview had to turn it back down to 60. Because it is only 80. It's only 89 degrees at 9:38 in the morning.
Perfect.
And she's got the heat on over here.
All right, Addison and Avery, this is my question for you guys. And Austin, we'll see if you confirm or deny this. You guys ready? Ready? All right. Where is your dad's favorite place to eat in Knoxville? Favorite restaurant in Knoxville?
Probably Ye Olde Steakhouse.
The old steakhouse.
Austin, can you confirm that insider knowledge there?
Addison, are you agreeing with this?
No.
What are you going to go with?
Oh.
We got a disagreement. Stunned, shocked. No one.
Father's Day just passed, too.
Ye Olde Steakhouse is a good one, Austin.
That is a good
That's
one.
a good pick.
Is it true, Austin?
Addison is saying Hump Hammers, which is a little mom and pop burger place out in Powell. That's probably my favorite lunch spot.
Okay.
I go out there with my good friends Matt and Justin once a week and eat. But
Nice.
as far as dinner, it probably would be Ye Olde Steakhouse.
Ye
I
Olde
do like to
Steakhouse.
go out there from time to time.
I like it.
Or Lonesome Dove, the one.
Solid.
Oh, yeah, I hadn't heard of that one.
Solid.
Okay.
Have to broaden your horizons going to
I
Knoxville
do.
this year, Ramon.
Great suggestion right there.
I like
man.
it. He is Austin Price joining us with a couple of special guests this morning from Knoxville. Our Vols insider at Austin Priceless on Twitter. Great stuff as always, Austin. Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
Oz.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
problem.
Yes, sir. Austin Price with us here this morning. Good stuff there talking Tennessee recruiting as they clearly, Ramon, made a pretty good impression. The number one running back in the country.
They did. That would be good, man.
We'll see.
They brought in some legends to try to help with that one, too, this past weekend.
Legends like Ramon Foster.
And Jamal Lewis.
I'm giving you credit.
Man.
You're very humble, but yes, him as well. 615-737-1045.